Hi everyone, this is Tanya the Lady Strange. This is going to be the week 3 video for the Witches Black Lent that Jasmine Ambrosia and the Trish at Beanbag Hagwag started a few years ago. I believe 3 years ago, but this is my second year doing it. Last year I worked with Pride, and I actually did it the whole year and kind of still obviously working with it as self-work and magic. And the human experience is all about continuous growth, healing, wisdom, gnosis, and being a better version of yourself. So, yes, still working on Pride. If that was not a bad journey, you can watch my videos. There's a playlist for that, including the update for this year, if you feel so inclined. Now, this is the challenge, should I say, or it's not necessarily a challenge, but it is challenging, trust me. Let me put it that way, of the Witches Black Lent, working with the aspect and subversion of the 7 deadly sins. It's mentioned, don't mind me saying, yeah, I'm in sort of a mood. Wrath is kicking my ass a bit. Pride was tough and still is tough, but felt easier. This I thought would be easier since, yeah, Wrath, and I knew it kind of seemed kind of clear, even though I was going to choose to work with MB, because that also seemed a clear contender, but I went with Wrath because, again, I have already been working with that, just like I was starting to work with Pride when I went into that, so I felt that would be more conducive to transmute my wrath, my anger, my irritation, my frustration, my impatience, and my pain of being repressed and not having a voice, expressing my feelings since the time I can remember. I didn't have an awful life growing up, let's just put it that way, but I had enough to do that. I have a great supportive mother since birth, that I love very dearly. But let's just say this, the male figures in my life, especially one, and still is extremely abusive, displays wrath and anger in a very unhealthy way, which again, that's my father, but I'm not going to go into that in depth. No one needs to know that, but it's part of what I'm working through because, again, I still have to face it. He also become, within the past couple years, a hardcore Christian, so yeah, and therefore he is a minister at the church that I grew up and went to now, and at points feels like doing a sermons, so I have to hold in my wrath for myself, not as much as for him, but having respect for myself of not lending up my energy. So that's one aspect I'm dealing with. But abuse, physical abuse is bad enough. I really wasn't, but I witnessed a lot of it in my environment in my life growing up and still now, on many levels. So it wasn't really physical abuse to myself, but mental, emotional, and mental and psychological go the same, but psychological abuse and emotional abuse are horrible, sometimes worse than physical abuse. I'm just going to put it that way. They still carry scars and sometimes deeper working with, but let's just put it this way. I had to constantly live up to expectations that were substantially unrealistic. And if I made even the minor mistakes of being a child or a human or expressing certain emotions, such as crying, or maybe saying something back to protect myself, or maybe those other people in my life that really mattered to me to do so, yeah, that made me fucking sit there and having to be silent and internalize. When you internalize too much over and over and layer upon layer, yeah, so it becomes something else, and that's how my wrath was born. You can check my week 2 poem, it does allude to that. So this year, and that's just a little feedback, is that as I'm going through the aspect of wrath, my dreams, my guides, and different experiences are triggering me to come to the surface from my subconscious for me to acknowledge, alchemize, heal, and let the fuck go. Yeah, because I try to hide my wrath at points, and other points I don't. It manifests and shows and surfaces in many ways which are not conducive to me and are detrimental to me and potentially to the energies in my life and things that matter. So yeah. So it's more about healthily acknowledging so I can have a better life experience, be a better version of myself, and for those that matter. And of course, working on the left-hand path, that is a huge part of my life as a woman in this human vessel, and this experience that's ever repressing us as if you are a woman or identify as a woman, and the rights we don't have and are being taken away even further, which have been so hardly fought for. So yeah, but this year, so that's just a bit about my wrath. So yes, a lot of stuff's coming up, sleepless things, etc. My spirits and guides and everything, and deities I work with, self-work. But you know what? That's all part of the process. It's just kicking my ass a bit more than I thought. So with this week 3 here, last year I did an effigy. You can check that video again if you feel inclined to. I still have her. I just took down the altar for it because I kept it up as a reminder to see it as I go in and out of this altar room many, many times. It's the main entrance to my home. And again, apologize for the shaking video. But with that being said, instead of doing an effigy, I decided to create a collage with some of my feelings of wrath. Pictures I've obtained off the internet that kind of express my inner world or feelings when it comes to things I've impressed, dealing with, as I'm big into imagery for my magic, but also words. Therefore, music. Music is magic, as I said in many of my videos, as is imagery. And what evokes the thoughts, feelings, what makes one connect, what makes one kind of question and find the root cause of things. And as to why, but also what needs to be acknowledged and alchemized, or to let, as I said, let the fuck go. So I'm going to show my collage. I made a collage and I made a sigil. Last year I made a sigil for Pride. This year I made one too. Last year I did it by the more traditional process. This one I said, what the hell? I just did a channeled one when I did the collage yesterday. So here's a up close. Again, this is a bit rough, but Tanya's a bit rough. Yes, I have a sense of humor about myself. So here is a picture that I found on the internet years and years ago. It is by Brahm. You can look him up. He is an amazing artist and writer. And I've always loved and connected with his beautiful vision, his beautiful creation, and the feelings it evokes in me, and how much it speaks to a different part of me, or the different aspects of me. And so this image here reminds me a lot of Lilith. Lilith is all about rebellion, subversion, speaking your truth, embodying your truth and courage, and being non-servant to certain things in convention, but being proud, strong, finding victory and glory in being your own self in your autonomy, and just being a woman or identifying as a woman, that lusty, deep, dark, magical energy, and how this shows how I, through embodying my wrath and not shrinking from it, because I know deep down that I'm not going to be like what was abusing and still abuses me and those in my life and circumstances bad. I know I'm not going to become that, and I know I'm not going to let it also come out as it should, because I'm actually being cognitive and responsible as a woman, witch, and spiritual being. So that's one of the images. So this is just a candle I have for this. It's kind of like a little altar I have as a reminder, because things, thoughts, feelings, and energies are that and consistent in my life. This is by Rodin, I believe. If I said the artist wrong, it is I printed it out, so yeah, the imagery is not the greatest, but it is the Gates of Hell by him. I love it. And again, Subversion, Gates of Hell, Gate to Experience, and yeah. And with that being said, here's Wrath, which I'm working with, of course, and it is the Fifth Circle of Hell. You can also check out, if you want more about that type of stuff or a great literature piece, check out Dante's Inferno specifically. And it does have a lot about wrath in it, as it does about the other 7 deadly sins. Also, I have on here fire, because one of my favorite things is, and I don't really repress it anymore as much as when I get angry, I say burn. Yes, thoughts and words, as I said, are energy, but yes, that's how I feel when I have to hold it in and it overcomes me. I feel like I'm being burned and consumed alive. But I can use that feeling instead of repressing it and then having it come in outbursts. I can use that as fire and will to manifest what I need in my life and to be a better version of myself and to be a better witch magician and to honor my divinity and use it as a motivator. So I'm going to use that as a motivating will and force in my life, and transmute my rest, not transmute. So yes, and that is, I took from the Burn song by 9 Inch Nails, as did I this. Here's some lyrics that I cut out in collage, little lyrics that have to do with, this is from the Burn song specifically. That is from Korn's song, Dead Bodies Everywhere. I'm a big alternative. I was a teen in the 90s, so yes, a lot of my wrath stems for that. Because No Doubt's lyrics song from Just a Girl, because I am a woman and a girl, and a lot of my experience will always be with that. And it does have that, don't let me have any rights. Again, Dead Bodies Everywhere. This song, or the lyrics from this underneath here, look at that, that's from Heresy by Nin. That is an ultimate song about subversion, and from the amazing, one of my favorite albums of all time. Every song on that is just amazing. Is from the Downward Spiral, but from the song Heresy by 9 Inch Nails. Check it out if you are interested, because that reminds me of multiple layers, but also about Christianity. I'm not trying to bash Christianity as much as, yeah, it's just not for me, and it hasn't been for many years, but even more and more so as I embrace my truth and actually being integral to myself and my autonomy, and as a woman in this experience, yeah, I will never go back to that. And I doubt in any future life either. I did it probably a lot of reasons because of conditioning I did in this life and what I had to do, and probably conditioning, and probably because of trying to do right for others and be a good girl. And yet I am me, and that might mean me, whether or not others like me or not, whether or not they perceive me when I get angry, have temper tantrums, or I say very rebellious things. Well, yeah, it's me. So, yeah, Wrath is teaching me to be myself, to shed those layers and those masks that I so carefully created throughout this life, and the things I carried over from my previous lives. And lastly, again, you'll see I wrote little words on here. They're nothing fancy. I'm not an artist by any means, but I find the time and the energy and the effort I put into this is my creativity, my magic, and what speaks to me and my soul and my journey and my healing. And lastly is the sigil I created and channeled yesterday, not long at all. I'm a channeler. I'm a big energy worker and channeler. Those are part of my main gifts in my everyday experience and how I work my magic on many levels. But this would be what I drew as a sigil Again, not the traditional way. I just went into a channel mode and real quickly drew what I did. So again, nothing elaborate, but as you can see, it does have that very interesting energy. You can kind of see for wrath. Kind of looks like into the lens of the camera like a serpent. If you watch any or even any of my videos previously for a hot minute or seen anything in my altar room, I work with serpents. That's a big thing, serpentine energy, in my magic and in a meaningful way for myself. I'm just going to put it that way. But it is funny. My husband says when he saw it yesterday before he left for work, is that an embryo? I kind of laughed. I said, well, actually, that's a quite interesting perspective to see of that, because it could be an embryo in the beginning of transmuting what is my pain and my hurt and my past and what I regress into something new, like the Death card. And transmuting from, and even like the Temperance card, transmuting one thing from another and ending and letting go and moving it into something that is more empowered, effective, that will carry through and reshape one's life and one's reality. So to create one's present and one's future by letting go. So that may be a great analogy for this and a great thing to tie in with this sigil for myself. I plan to, I don't know for how long, to work with this or to keep this collage sort of up. Maybe I will as I did with Pride. I will just have to see how my magic and how I am guided and what works. Again, I hope you all found this interesting, despite the shakiness on it. It is my creation. It is my journey. So yeah, this is to hold myself accountable and for me to continue to reflect as I go back and watch my own videos to see my journey, my growth, and how I evolve and how I experience life. And with that, stay strange.